You've probably seen photos of places that look like they're from another planet, but most of them are just clever editing. Fjordland is the only place on Earth where the reality is actually more beautiful and a little bit more terrifying than any picture you've ever seen. If you think you've seen wild nature before, you haven't seen anything until you've stood at the bottom of a cliff that's twice as tall as the Empire State Building, watching 1,000 temporary waterfalls appear out of thin air because of a sudden rainstorm. Most people go their whole lives without ever seeing a place that feels truly untouched by humans. We're talking about a corner of the world so remote and so rugged that some of the animals living there were actually thought to be extinct for 50 years before someone found them hiding in the bushes. Today, we're going deep into the heart of Fiordland National Park in New Zealand. This isn't just a park, it's a massive 1.2 million hectare kingdom of ice, water, and ancient forest. By the time we're done, you're going to understand why people call this the eighth wonder of the world and why it's the one place you absolutely have to visit before you die. But getting there isn't as simple as hopping on a bus, and the weather here has a mind of its own, so you need to know exactly what you're getting into before you pack your bags. If you're looking at a map, Fiordland is way down in the bottom left corner of New Zealand's South Island. It feels like the end of the world because, in a way, it is. To get here from anywhere else in the world, your journey starts with a long-haul flight to New Zealand. Most people fly into Auckland first because it's the biggest international hub, but you could also land in Christchurch if you're coming from Australia or parts of Asia. Once you're in New Zealand, you need to get to the South Island. You'll want to book a domestic flight to Queenstown. Queenstown is the closest thing to a big city near the park, and even then, it's more of a beautiful mountain town. From Queenstown, the real adventure begins. You've got a couple of choices. You can rent a car, which I highly recommend because you're going to want to stop every 5 minutes to take a photo. Or you can do what many seasoned travelers do and rent a camper van. Having your bed and a little kitchen on wheels is the ultimate way to see this part of the country because it gives you the freedom to wake up right on the edge of a lake. The drive from Queenstown to Tianau takes about 2 hours. Tianau is what we call the base camp for Fiordland. It's a quiet, pretty town sitting right on the edge of a massive lake, and it's the last place you can get real groceries or fuel before you head into the wilderness. If you don't want to drive yourself, there are plenty of tour buses and coaches like the Intercity bus that can take you there. But honestly, if you can drive, do it. The road from Tianau to Milford Sound, known as State Highway 94, is consistently rated as one of the most beautiful drives on the entire planet. It's about 120 kilometers of winding roads, massive valleys, and mountain tunnels that will make your jaw drop. So, what exactly is a fjord? A lot of people call these places sounds, like Milford Sound or Doubtful Sound, but they're actually fjords. The difference is pretty simple but cool. A sound is a valley flooded by the sea that was formed by a river. A fjord is a valley that was carved out by a massive, heavy glacier. About 100,000 years ago, giant sheets of ice moved through these mountains, grinding the rock down and creating these incredibly deep U-shaped valleys. When the ice melted, the ocean rushed in to fill the gaps. This is why the cliffs in Fiordland are so steep. They go straight up into the air and straight down into the water. Some of these fjords are over 400 meters deep. That's deep enough to hide a skyscraper underwater. The local Maori people have a much cooler story about how this happened though. According to legend, a god named Tutaraki Wanoa used a giant stone axe to chop at the coastline. He wanted to create a place where people could find food and shelter, so he hacked away at the solid rock to create these deep inlets. He started in the south and got better as he went along, which is why Milford Sound, the northernmost one, is considered his greatest masterpiece. One of the weirdest things about Fiordland is the rain. It is one of the wettest places on the entire planet. In some parts of the park, it rains over 200 days a year. You might think that sounds like a bad time for a vacation, but it's actually the opposite. When it rains in Fiordland, thousands of temporary waterfalls appear on the cliff faces. They look like veins of silver running down the mountains. Because the rock is so hard, the water doesn't soak in. It just races down to the sea. It's a sight you won't see anywhere else. Now here is the challenge. Because Fjordland is so beautiful, it's also very popular, but it's incredibly fragile. There is only one road in and one road out of the most famous spot, Milford Sound. If there's a landslide or heavy snow, you're stuck. Also, the weather changes in a heartbeat. You can start your morning with bright blue skies and be in the middle of a freezing rainstorm by lunch. The other big problem is the sandflies. These tiny little bugs are legendary in New Zealand. They don't have a sting, they have a bite, and they love tourists. Local legend says the goddess of the underworld saw how beautiful Fiordland was and got worried that humans would never want to leave. So she created the sandfly to bite them and keep them moving. If you're going, bring the strongest bug spray you can find. It's a small price to pay for the views, but trust me, you don't want to forget it. Let's talk about the spots you absolutely cannot miss. First up is the heavyweight champion, Milford Sound. Even though it's the most famous, it never feels overrated. When you arrive, the first thing you'll see is Meter Peak. It's this jagged mountain that stands 1,692 meters tall, rising directly out of the water. The best way to see it is on a boat cruise. You'll sail right under waterfalls like Stirling Falls, where the boat captain might even drive the nose of the ship right under the falling water so you can get a glacial facial. It's freezing, it's wet, and it's awesome. If Milford Sound is the famous one, Doubtful Sound is the secret one. It's 3 times longer and 10 times larger than Milford. It's much harder to get to. You have to take a boat across Lake Manapuri, then a bus over a mountain pass, and then another boat into the sound itself. Because it's so hard to reach, it's incredibly quiet. They call it the sound of silence. Sometimes, the boat captain will turn off the engines and ask everyone to be quiet for 5 minutes. You can hear every bird call and every drop of water hitting the surface from kilometers away. It's a spiritual experience. Then there are the Te Anau glowworm caves. This isn't your typical cave walk. You get on a small boat inside a dark underground limestone grotto. As you float through the darkness, the ceiling lights up with thousands of tiny blue lights. These are glowworms, and they only live in New Zealand and parts of Australia. It looks like you're floating through outer space. On your drive-in, you have to stop at the Mirror Lakes. On a calm day, the water is so still that it perfectly reflects the Earl Mountains. There's even a sign that's written upside down so you can read it correctly in the reflection on the water. It's a quick stop, but it's one of those, is this real life moments? And don't forget the chasm. It's a short walk to a series of powerful waterfalls where the water has spent thousands of years carving smooth, circular holes into the solid rock. The power of the water there is terrifying and impressive all at once. The animals in Fjordland are just as unique as the landscape. Let's start with the key. This is the world's only alpine parrot. They are super smart, very brave, and kind of mischievous. If you park your car at a lookout, a K might land on your roof and start trying to pull the rubber seals off your windows or steal your windshield wipers. They're basically feathered monkeys. They love to interact with people, but please don't feed them. They're supposed to eat berries and roots, not your crackers. Then there's the takahe. This bird is a real-life miracle. Back in the early 1900s, everyone thought the takahe was extinct. It's a big blue and green flightless bird that looks like a prehistoric chicken. For 50 years, no one saw one. Then, in 1948, a guy named Dr. Orbell followed some strange footprints into the Murchison Mountains in Fjordland and found a small group of them still living there. It was like finding a living dinosaur. Today, they are still very rare, but you can see them at the Wildlife Centre in Te Anau. If you're out on the water, keep your eyes peeled for the Fiordland crested penguin, also known as the tawaki. They have these cool yellow feathers over their eyes that look like bushy eyebrows. They are one of the rarest penguins in the world and only live in this specific part of New Zealand. And of course, there are the bottlenose dolphins and New Zealand fur seals. The seals love to sunbathe on rocks called Seal Rock, and they usually don't mind boatloads of tourists taking their photos. Under the water, things get even weirder. Fjordland is famous for its black coral. Usually, black coral only grows in very deep, dark water, hundreds of meters down. But in the fjords, there's a layer of fresh water on top of the salt water. This fresh water is stained dark by the forest floor, so it blocks out the sunlight. This freshwater declination tricks the coral into thinking it's in the deep ocean, so it grows just a few meters below the surface. It means divers can see things that usually require a submarine to reach. If you're someone who likes to get their boots dirty, Fiordland is home to 3 of New Zealand's great walks. The most famous is the Milford Track. It's been called the finest walk in the world for over 100 years. It's a 53-kilometre journey that takes 4 days. You hike through ancient rainforests, over mountain passes, and past the giant Sutherland Falls. It's so popular that you have to book your spot months or sometimes a year in advance. If you can't get a spot on the Milford, the Kepler Track and the Routeburn Track are just as stunning. The Kepler takes you along high mountain ridges with 360-degree views of the lakes and fjords, while the Routeburn takes you through ice-carved valleys and past bright green alpine lakes. These aren't just walks, they're tests of endurance that reward you with views that most people only see from a helicopter. Before you book your flight, you need to decide what kind of vibe you want. Summer is from December to February. This is when the weather is warmest, but it's also when the park is the most crowded. If you go in the winter from June to August, the mountains are covered in thick white snow. It's incredibly beautiful, but it's also very cold, and some roads might be closed. My favorite time is the shoulder season in spring or autumn. In the spring, the waterfalls are at their strongest because of the melting snow. In the autumn, the air is crisp and clear. No matter when you go, you need to pack for every possible season. Even in the middle of summer, you need a waterproof jacket and a warm sweater. The weather here doesn't care about your plans. But that's part of the magic. It's a place that makes you feel small in the best way possible. It reminds you that the world is huge and powerful and that there are still places where nature is the boss. Fjordland is more than just a national park. It's a piece of the world that has stayed the same for thousands of years. It's a place where you can breathe the cleanest air on Earth, drink water straight from a mountain stream, and stand in the shadow of giants. If you're looking for an adventure that will actually change the way you see the world, this is it. If you want to see more incredible places like this, it just requires a hit on subscribe to our channel The Tiny Vlogs to get new updates.